It gives me great pleasure to introduce one of my best friends in the whole world, and what an honor and privilege I feel to be able to call him one of my friends. Scott Burr is not just the average individual, he is one of the smartest men I know. He graduated from Stanford University as an engineer, a mechanical engineer. He's a fellow in the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, which is quite a prestigious position in and of itself. Scott is brilliant, but not is he just brilliant as an engineer, have a really sharp mathematical mind, but Scott is brilliant socially. He's brilliant emotionally. He's able to connect to humans, as few engineers can really connect. I count Scott as one of my friends, and what a blessing it is to have him as one of my friends. Scott is an expert in all things mechanical. He's an expert in Six Sigma. He's an expert in all sorts of mechanical applications of engineering. Very few people can say that they truly have a good friend. Their best friend is a rocket scientist. Yes, Scott is a rocket scientist. Yes, Scott is a true rocket scientist. He has worked for Space Systems Loral, putting satellites in the air. He's also worked on countless different assembly lines and other mechanical issues. He's presently the principal of Innovation Scientific, is the name of his company. He specializes in solving some of the most complex problems that companies have. Companies from around the world hire Scott to help them innovate solutions to unsolvable problems. In today's video, Scott is going to be talking about TRIZ, which is a Russian acronym for a way of innovatively thinking or innovative problem solving. And I will do it a disservice when I explain to you what TRIZ really is. So let me explain to you kind of how Scott explained it to me one day. One day, the satellite company he was working for was flying him, I believe, back to Florida so that they could watch a launch. And they were flying him in business class. And Scott is kind of a chatty kind of guy. And he was sitting in business class talking to this other individual. And this other individual, the questions are, what do you do for a living? And the other individual said, I'm working on plastics and I'm working on a top secret portion of plastics. Our company for years has been developing a way to strengthen plastic. Scott thought for a minute, and using the TRIZ logic, came back to the guy and said, hey, have you thought about using pre-stressed fibers as a way of strengthening plastic? And the guy looked at Scott like, how did you know? That's top secret. We've been working on that for years. And Scott explained that he used the TRIZ logic. He found another industry that had solved a similar problem with a similar material. See, so plastic, before it sets up, is plastic. It's pliable. It can be shaped. What other substance can be shaped, and how did they strengthen that? And he thought about the concrete industry. And so concrete, when it's wet, or cement when it's wet, can be shaped into any shape you want. And it can be strengthened by using rebar and pre-stressed fibers. So he simply took the solution out of that industry and applied it to the plastics industry. This can be done for almost every problem that is out there. Some element of the problem has already been solved in some other industry. And the concept of TRIZ is taking these concepts, or having the discipline of this thinking to be able to apply it towards innovative problem solving, with the assumption that whatever problem you're facing, the majority of that problem has already been solved someplace else in the world. We simply need to do the research and fit the pieces together. With no further ado, I would like to introduce Scott. Now, to put it in context, I was on vacation one day and in Scott's town, and I met him at a park. And he and I got to talking, as we always do, and I was able to put it on video. So Scott is dressed in his park attire, with a little bit of an Einstein look, but that kind of fits with his intelligence.
Hi, Scott Burr, Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Also, I've been involved in the process and discipline of innovation since 1998, when I first learned TRIZ as a methodology. TRIZ is this particular structure and a set of basic principles that allows you to think more inventively. One of the biggest weaknesses that I've found with TRIZ is the lack of application of psychology to it as a discipline. And so a master discipline to me is the application or the combination of TRIZ with important psychological principles, so that when you apply these principles in TRIZ to a problem, that you don't become discouraged. Many people who have applied TRIZ into business find themselves falling short, not able to solve problems because they don't have the persistence, they don't have the mindset, and they don't have the early adoption mentality, the willingness to risk reputation for reward in addition to those basic skills. And so what we find is that most people fall short when they accept a project, that they're unwilling to take the risks necessary to go all the way. And when it comes to innovation, going halfway doesn't do the job. You have to go all the way in order for it to be effective.